this how to fund your blockchain startup. We heard a lot also in the previous panel, the roundtable about financing. But with the growing number of social business challenges ahead, today governments and other supporting environments are persistently looking for breakthrough innovations that would be able to tackle them. And startups, companies, and also individuals have several instruments and tenders at their disposal to help them develop a business idea and bring it to market. On the other hand, this process is demanding, of course, and time-consuming, and it involves application writing, coordinating, cross-industry cooperation, and last but not least, regular reporting. And for that, we will steer the debate in both directions. First, we will present the existing initiatives and funding programs in Slovenia and Europe. At the same time, we will also learn about the challenges the startups face with securing funding. We will start with Nina Dukuzo, the head project that is leading the head project group of the new economy and blockchain and technologies at the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology of Republic of Slovenia. Nina, the stage is yours.
Tanya, thank you very much. I will try to be very concise with the presentation today. Actually, we focus into certain areas of financing of blockchain technology and also other advanced technologies at the Ministry of Economy or Economic Development and Technology in Slovenia. In 2018, we were a kind of front runners not only in the development of technology, but we were also the first that we announced the call for projects that were asking from the companies to embrace, to integrate advanced technologies into traditional sectors. So, as you know, we have 9 pillars of smart specialization, including smart cities, smart factories, then tourism, then circular economy, and so on. And we were very happy that we received around from 33 approved projects, we had 64% of projects that foreseen blockchain application in the digital transformation or application in the experimental phases of the development of the project. This was the first step, and after that we really realized that we can integrate those projects, those technologies also into traditional business processes, and this gave us the sign that advanced technologies can be very well used for the whole digital transformation of the economy and the society as the consequence. You know that this year we all prepared like the answer to COVID and the pandemics and the consequences of this. We prepared our National Recovery and Resilience program. In our National Recovery and Resilience program, we needed to dedicate 20% of all funding to digital. So for digital transition, we managed to shape or managed to define certain measures. First measure will be the support to big companies, to large companies in the cooperation with small and medium enterprises and startups in the field of key digital technologies that are also inherent in the Digital Europe program. And blockchain technology is one of the most important technologies in Digital Europe program. This is one thing. On the other hand, we need to, or we foreseen the application of this technology also in the public services. So we received funding for European blockchain services infrastructure, and we will open the node of EPSI very soon. And here we are also developing or trying to develop an approach how to integrate main European use cases. Those are digital identity, diplomas on blockchain, traceability, also to that processes that ministry has with stakeholders, and to receive positive reactions from the stakeholders as we are going to simplify the business environment and decrease the administrative burdens for the companies. The third thing that I want to mention is that we dedicated a special measure for cross-border multi-country projects. And here we are concretely supporting EPSI and integration of national infrastructures. We know that we have either on the European level, common European blockchain services infrastructure and use cases, but we also have our national infrastructure, and we managed to integrate the approach of 3-4 countries to integrate their infrastructures and upgrade European blockchain services infrastructure. A part of this, we will fund early adopters program. And what is the challenge now within early adopters program is to identify really top use cases that we can develop and finance through that early adopters program. We also focused in at the ministry into e-identity of the companies. I have to tell that in 2 years of development, the experts of our very advanced companies, for example, from Netis here, cooperated very much with the European Commission to build up a digital identity or self-sovereign identity use case. And here we are also trying to find additional experts to build up certain use cases that can be applicable also in the European area. We have now some proposals for copyright infrastructure, for upgrading that digital identity, for upgrading diplomas use cases and certificates, and also for traceability. And we have 3 other use cases which are SME financing, asylum seekers, so the support for the asylum, and also the social security card on blockchain. Here we are going to, in this year, we are going to select certain use cases that we can put for early adopters program and support them through the cooperation with the community and through the cooperation with the providers of the use cases that are already existing. As the fourth measure, we planned to finance or to build up a competence center for blockchain. Here was established blockchain digital innovation hub, but our intention is to spread it to and to engage other supporting environments so that we can get that pool of knowledge that we need for development of blockchain technology in further steps. What I have to say that we also think about not only through financing of blockchain technology, but how with the blockchain technology can we finance companies. And this is what we were thinking or what we had in mind also when we developed NFT as first state or first government globally, because we identified that through the promotion of the companies on NFT, through promotion of industrial design of the companies, through evaluation of this design and value added that our companies producing through their products, we can achieve even better access to market and even better visibility. I have to say that NFT for Slovenia is powered by hashnet technology, technology, and this is also Slovenian-based technology. So we are proud to say that we have some very good or excellent cases for infrastructure, for use cases out of industry, and use cases also in the field of pure blockchain sector or pure blockchain companies. For example, in tourism, we have now Tourism 4.0. We are very proud of this because through blockchain we will evaluate the tourist experience and testing of the blockchain infrastructure. Also, we, in different areas, we want to go further with financing. For example, energy efficiency and traceability of materials, it will be also very important. It's not directly for digital transformation, but it is supporting certain industrial operations through blockchain technology. And I think that we will enable plenty of instruments that will be accessible to companies, that will enable to companies to further develop their products, to have innovative projects, and to exhaust their innovative potential here. So maybe this for the beginning, and then for the discussion after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nena. Now we go to the next presentation. Global Disruption is a company that helps tech startups and projects to convince investors and customers. They specialize in EU grants and tenders, and they're cracking the code for innovation funding. The members of Global Disruption will guide you through the whole process, from the discovery of suitable calls to application writing and mentorship. And with us is Christian Zemlic, founder and CEO of Global Disruption.
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. All right. So thank you for the presentation, Tanya, and thank you for having me. So let's go briefly through today's presentation. So we already covered the point one, who we are and what we do. So we will go through this very briefly, but then we will focus our attention on quite burning problem. Where's my money? Yeah, so how to get funding for the work you do. We will briefly shed a light on Horizon Europe opportunities, top down and bottom up. And I will also provide you with some action steps you can take immediately, which are, easily executable. So you can take action immediately. And of course, we will dig deeper later on during the panel. So as I was already introduced, I'm co-founder at the Global Disruption. We are really heavily involved into high-tech and deep tech technologies, including blockchain. Me personally, at least, I'm active in this field since 2004. So by now I run a team spread across 3 continents. And in the last 6-7 years, I worked with almost 100, not almost, but beyond 100 companies working and advising on their projects. But let's focus on what is really important, and that is how to get the funding for the blockchain projects. So, of course, we already heard today that EU funding is one of the very attractive, or at least potentially attractive source of funding, but there are pluses and minuses. So myself as an entrepreneur, I will always say that EU funding is not the magic wand. It doesn't solve all the problems, and that we need to balance the approach. So how far are we willing to go in pursuing this opportunity? Now, for the newcomers, when they want to try to tackle this funding, it all seems like a maze, really, because there is a lot of moving parts here. So first of all, different rules of engagement, plenty of calls, complicated processes, administration burden, as we heard. But on the opposite, it's possible, it's manageable if you will explore a bit the Cordis database. So how many blockchain projects are approved? You will find something above 300 in general. And many of those were allocated, so the grants were allocated also to small and medium-sized companies, even startups. So just to give you a comfort that it's manageable and possible. Now, one thing we need to know that despite this is a challenging process, it's challenging also because the competition to get the funding is quite harsh. That means there are plenty of interested parties. They are all well equipped, usually, not all, but majority of them is very well equipped with arguments like why they're the best and why they should get the money. And the row of candidates who are really eager and motivated to get it is really long. So it is on us. And today I will try to give some very practical tips on us to present ourselves in the best possible way. And let me start here with the saying by Muhammad Ali. So it's not bragging if you can back it up. So let me tell you one thing, that majority of applicants, I refer to companies as applicants, they somehow tend not to brag a bit. So who they are, what they can do, and why they are the best, because trust me, majority of companies says, we are the best, our team is the best, our solution is unique, we will change the market, we will disrupt the industry, we will earn millions. It is us who need the money, it is us who you should allocate the money. Now, as we say, paper can stand everything. You know, it's nothing wrong with saying that, but keep in mind that we need to support such claims, meaning that if, for example, we say we will earn millions, we need to support such statements with, let's say, letters of support or interest to buy and so on, so that we can prove at least possible early traction and purchases. Now, having said that, it is there is this knowing that there is a lot of money available. So, and the wrong perception of this is that you only need to, you know, pick it up. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. It's not that easy. So how it really works is that, you know, on the one side, we have the Commission or Europe with these ideas where it wants to go, how it wants to develop, and all these ideas are written down in EU policies and funding programs. And on the other side, we have, let's say, companies with their specific problems, business problems or customer problems they want to solve. And we need to point that out immediately, that in many cases, the problem of the company is not aligned with the idea or vision of Europe where it wants to go. And to be even more harsh on this, Europe is really not interested in how cool your solution is or how cool our idea is. Europe only wants to know whether our cool idea can help it to reach the objectives which are written down in these policies and programs. So the company owners, the tech teams, the development teams, and so on, they need to be aware of these discrepancies, and that some alignment must be done beforehand, before starting to write anything, any letter, because if this alignment is non-existing, nothing can really happen. And what this means in practice really is that, for example, if you want to apply for a project and the Commission expects something while you have in mind something else, it means that you either need to adapt your idea, and if this is a big step away from the core business you have, then you need to wait whether this is still a good decision or not. That's one thing. But it can also affect your approach to EU funding, meaning that maybe your idea is to apply by yourself and no partnership is needed. On the other side, if you don't have the I'm just reading the comments. On the other side, you need to know that, I mean, if you know that you don't have a all the competencies in-house that you will need to create such partnership. And then again, we have various paths we can follow. Either this is create partnership, join partnership, and so on. And we already heard today it's not that simple, but again, manageable. So let's move on. The big question I get quite often is, well, where's my money, or can we at least get the money, or where should we start, or is there any opportunity for us? So I will try to briefly, because we have quite short time limit, shed the light on the really huge possibilities and opportunities available there, and then really narrow it down to maybe what you could find most appropriate. So in general, what you see here is a screenshot of participant portal, which is one of the main source of information regarding the funding. So here you see plenty of programs running, and at the moment you can see 846 programs being enlisted. So a lot of EU funding calls, and the big problem that we usually encounter is, well, each of them has its own rules of engagement, the funding available, deadlines, what do they expect, and so on. So to make it a bit more simple, you can of course filter this search, and to make it even more simple, most of companies usually focus on Horizon Europe, where this, which is the main funding source for most of SMEs. So if we take a look at it, we will not go into much details, but you see the key visible points. So the Horizon is quite complex program, but in general, two out of three pillars could be of interest to you. One is pillar 2, which is divided into different, so 6 clusters: health, culture, civil security, digital, climate, and food, bioeconomy, and natural resources. So this is one part. And the other one is European Innovation Council. We will screen through both of them briefly. So let's see. So now we are moving to this one, pillar 2, 6 clusters. Now, first of all, keep in mind, this is if you decide to apply here, it's mostly cooperation projects, meaning you need to have a consortium. Now, either you join it or create it, it's another thing, but this is the main rule. Consortiums are really of different sizes, so minimum 3 partners from 3 countries, but what we see is everything from 6, 7, 8, 10, 15, even 100 partners. There is no really rule. Partnership is created based on the needs of the projects, which has more or less ambitious objectives. So it's really, there is no rule, okay? It's just one rule. We need a partnership. As you can see, these 6 clusters are different topics, basically, which then have subtopics. So different budgets, different calls available, and so on. So this is something we can dig deeper later on during the panel. But what you need to know is that maybe the majority of blockchain-related calls will be found here in digital industry and space. So far I can tell you that 7 are opened, 2 are announced, but in general, when we screen the work programs, I can tell you that there are around 18 or 20 directly focused on blockchain. But keep in mind that you can also apply to any of other topics where there is the main topic is, for example, health, but you can of course apply blockchain solution into that area as well. Now to move on. As mentioned, you can tackle Horizon Europe different ways. One is to join, one is to join the consortiums, one is to create one. At this point, I will focus more on joining one because honestly, especially for the newcomers, it's a bit easier way to do it. First of all, especially those with no previous or prior experience in this, it's a lot of work, especially if you are a project leader. It's one thing to write the proposal. The second thing is to gather or create a relevant consortium and then manage it. So it's really huge work. Science and Business Review estimates that a value of one proposal is, if we turn working hours into euros, we get 100,000 euros of value. So it really means a lot of work during a longer period of time, 3 to even 6 months. So extensive work. But alternative is, of course, to join the consortiums. And to be very concrete, how to do it, the best way to do it is maybe you need to think, because you need to sell your company. Start with creating one or two pager explaining why somebody should pick you. We heard already earlier that it means that you can either fly to Brussels several times, visit fairs, talk to relevant stakeholders. You can also use funding and tender portal, which is the image here on the left side, or even try and use different LinkedIn groups. There are plenty of them with hundreds of thousands of companies and institutions looking for partners. So it's fast, really fast way to start to create some buzz, conversations, and so on. But eventually to find a really relevant consortium, that takes a bit more time, but nevertheless, it's possible, manageable, and here is where you can start. Now, in addition to let's say cooperation projects, which we mentioned here on this pillar 2, there is an alternative to this. It's called EIC, so European Innovation Council. So what you see here is a possibility how you can actually join this competition. And there are, at least the way I see it, there are two main key decision criteria. So one is, how far are you in the development of your technology? So either you are very early, somewhere between proof of concept and prototype, or the level of prototype and more. And then on the other side, we have the another decision criteria, which is whether you want to apply by yourself, or you are open to small or a bit bigger cooperation projects. So different alternatives are possible here. Unfortunately, we don't have time to dig to all of them. I will focus mostly on the accelerator now, but we can explain and dig deeper later on. Why accelerator? Because this is a single entity proposal, which means you can apply by yourself. Here you can get funding to further develop your prototype to commercial ready solution, and then also get funding for scale up, which is expensive, as we heard today as well. So let's explore this a bit more in detail. So accelerator, already mentioned, single entity proposal. So what you can get is anywhere between 500,000 to 2.5 million euros to finance your, we say, innovation activities, meaning prototyping, testing, validation with customers, and so on. 70% is co-financed, meaning that your project is usually $3 and something millions, but this is what you get out. You complete the projects, you are ready to go to the market, and for that you can get up to 15 million euros, where for the exchange of maximum 25% to do the scale up, meaning commercializing your solution. Now, all of these programs are briefly summarized here. This presentation should be shared around, so you will have time to go through it by yourself. And finally, some action step. Many ask us, can we get the funding for our idea? And here is what I say. You can use the so-called EIC platform. So it's a free tool provided with by the Commission. Just type into the Google, you can log in, and when you're logged in, you will land here. Click here on this diagnose the idea, and you will fill a few questions, and immediately you will get the results about your scientific excellence, technological excellence, market creation potential, team, and so on. It gives you a very good idea where you are and where at least this tool sees weaknesses in your idea, but it also provides you with further potentials where you can apply if this call would not be the best fit for you. So to sum up, take a strategic approach. I will elaborate on this later on, but don't apply just for the sake of the grant, please. There are different ways how you can approach. So is it a solo application or partnership cooperation and so on? At least myself as a business owner and an entrepreneur, I always advise only apply what you can really use in your business and start with step one, that is evaluate your idea. That's it from me at the moment, and see you later on in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. I'm really happy to hear your thoughts in the panel later on. Now we're moving forward to the next presentation. F6S is the largest growth company community. It delivers billions in growth to millions of tech founders, growth companies, and most of the global startup ecosystem. The F6S community includes 16,000 of the world's top corporates, governments, and startup programs. The community delivers company growth through investment, pilots, grants, partnerships, and of course, services. With us is now Egidius Yarasunas, the co-founder of F6S. The stage is yours.
I really miss the sound of the audience and in the conference room by connecting through the screen, through the internet. I very much miss the dim lights in the audience and as well everyone checking their phones during the presentations. So to those that are planning to do so, I want to tell you that I've included one fun meme in my presentation. So if you follow it, you might have a laugh within the 15 minutes. As I was introduced, my name is Egidius. So I was born in Lithuania, and I probably have the same problem as Slovenian people as well, introducing themselves in an English environment. So every time I introduce myself, people ask, well, where are you from? And I say Lithuania, and they ask Slovenia. So that's how I connect and relate to Slovenia. But call me Ig, that's how everyone calls me. And I am from F6S. So the very same way as Ig stands for Egidius, the same way F6S stands for the word founders. And I see you can see my screen. That's great. So F6S is kind of the geeky variation of the word founders. If you would take 6 letters that are in between, you would end up with F at the beginning, S at the end, and 6 letters that are not there. So we're all geeky here. As mentioned, F6S is a global community for startups. We are the place where startups grow, and we're making the world a better place by helping startups grow. Up to this moment, we have over 4 million founders on F6S. We deliver around $3 billion in opportunities worldwide, and we already gave startups over $2 billion in deals, in discounts, so that they can grow from companies like Amazon and HubSpot and Freshdesk, Zendesk, and so forth. So these are all partners. So we work with, so the number at introduction was 16,000 something. So the number is growing fast, and we're right now at around 17,000 different programs that are running through F6S. What I mean by that is there's a bunch of different opportunities, right? There's startup accelerators that are financing startups. There are government programs like European Commission, but also worldwide. And there are corporate innovation programs also looking for the startups. So we kind of are intermediary between all of these opportunities and the startups. And you can see here just a few of the programs and the opportunities that we work with and you might recognize. So just moving into the financing your blockchain project topic, I want to say a few remarks. The first one is, as it was said in the previous panel, doing a startup is hard, and getting it financed is even harder, regardless of the type of the funding that you choose or go with. So it's hard anyways. The second thing is I've seen a lot of very smart people here in this conference, so I don't feel like the smartest guy in the room. That's why I like it here, and that's why what you're going to see in this presentation about the funding, it's not something scientifically researched, rather a reference point that will help us to see where we are coming from, and maybe will help us to understand where we are going. So let's begin. Financing your blockchain project. Let's look at the timeline. How did it involve? So I added here in this presentation just a few examples grouped by years, with the very beginning as 2012, which kind of started with the Coinbase. So Coinbase is obviously one of the blockchain entrance gates to the blockchain world, at least the crypto world, but it kind of started the game, if not considering some previous examples. So how did Coinbase raise their money back in 2012? Well, first of all, they were invited to a startup accelerator program. So Y Combinator, one of the most popular startup accelerators in the world, operating out of the Silicon Valley, invested $125,000 into Coinbase, along with a few other investors. And so Coinbase started their life with $600,000 seed round in 2012. A similar scenario was with Ripple, another blockchain company that's well recognized, who raised $200,000 in an angel round in 2012. Filecoin, another crypto project and blockchain project, did a similar thing as a seed round in 2014 that raised funding from Y Combinator again, so a startup accelerator, angel investors, and some VCs, and a seed round was only $420,000. So you can see the beginning, the 2012, 2015, blockchain as a whole in general is not very well recognized. No one really knows what it is. There's just a few geeks working on it, even less people understanding it, and the opportunities that invest in these startups, in these projects, are very open-minded people, bright people, or just an absolute luck people. But that's how they start. And you can see the funding is really low compared to what happens in the period of 2015 to 2018. And here I kind of added different scenarios. So for example, in 2015, Cardano does an ICO and raises $62 million. So a huge amount of money compared to the humble beginnings of Coinbase and Ripple and Filecoin. Obviously, all of them later on raised other rounds and more money. But here's the beginning of Cardano, 62 million in your bank account. Well, frankly speaking. But there are other examples. For example, Ledger, which is a European success story in a blockchain space. So at the beginning, they were raising a small angel rounds, which was like family and friends rounds. And in 2015, they get a grant. They get a grant from BPI France, 1.4 million euros. And they continue growing and build their product and later on go and raise bigger rounds. But here we see one scenario of public money actually entering into blockchain world in 2015. Yeah, other scenarios, 2017, Polkadot also does an ICO, raises $250 million. So you can see that the ICOs are the big thing of 2015, 2018, with the ICO amounts that you can raise just growing so much. And at that time, no one actually thought, why should I go to VC anymore, right? But here what happens, the price of actually doing an ICO goes so high that you actually need to raise funding to do an ICO. The first projects that started with an ICO were really tech guys, geeks, that raised the ICOs and got the social effects almost with no money. Later on, doing an ICO started costing a lot of money. As it was said, listing your token on crypto exchange was 75,000, but also doing anything else, it could be like from 100,000 up to 500,000 and more, depend on the project. And so it became expensive. So what happened is, again, came a mix of venture capital, startup accelerator money, and ICO, a mix. So 2018 and 2021, we see this mix being mixed even stronger. So Block One in 2018 raises $4 billion in an ICO, but the ICO is mainly done with VC money, with VC investment. OpenSea, everyone knows if does any NFT stuff, raised their seed round from, again, Y Combinator, 120,000, a humble beginning at the 2018, and then move on raising bigger rounds and doing other stuff. And BitCloud as well, 2021, raises 200 million in an ICO. I think I forgot to mention, did I? Yeah, I forgot to mention one interesting example that happened in 2015, 2018, that's not here. So you see Cardano raising $62 million. Those who know Cardano as a project, they brag about the research part of it. Actually, if you go on Accordis, which is a European project website, there's a project called Privilege, a research and development project, which got around 4.5 million euros in funding in 2018, and input-output. That's a subsidiary of a Cardano Foundation. They're participated. They are actually working on their algorithms that kind of supported the Cardano blockchain. So again, we see how the government subtly enters into the blockchain world, even in the big names. So here is kind of the evolution of the blockchain industry. And if we would need to say what's the outcome of it, well, it seems that the first place in the funding scheme of things of blockchain still is given to a startup accelerator. So for example, out of Success, at the moment, we have over 100 opportunities worldwide that are open and looking for blockchain companies, with 65 opportunities in Europe that are looking for blockchain companies. And startup accelerators are a really good beginning if you want to raise initial round. They are open-minded. They accept applicants from mostly all over the world, or at least you can find such. So it's a really good beginning. The second place, angels and VCs, right? So angel and VC money still helps, especially if you want to grow faster and larger. But they have their nuances that was already mentioned in previous panels. And again, the government have their subtle entrances. So I have the outdated data, let's put it that way. And they spent directly 180 million euros to blockchain in the year 2016 to 2019. And as we could see from the previous presentation, the amount of money they're pumping into blockchain right now is so much bigger, right? So these three players, let's say, are the perfect mix if you want to balance your blockchain finance project. let's discuss just a few opportunities that exist. So for example, Techstars is open at the moment and is accepting applications, as well as Startup Bootcamp and CV Labs in Zug in Switzerland, the paradise of crypto. All of them are accepting applications. All of them are giving money for a little bit of equity. So that's a brilliant beginning if you just want to start. They accept sometimes, in some cases, even very early stage companies. So go to Have Success, search for them, and apply, and you might get a chance getting a finance. Some other opportunities that are as well private, let's say privately funded, is a blockchain accelerator that gives 250,000, Iconic Lab that gives 200K, and BlockRocket that gives 150K. So huge amounts of money that you can get right now. Applications are open, and that's a good beginning. So that's the startup accelerator scene that's actual at the moment, and funding that's available as we go. But also we have the government projects. So government also funds different projects that are specifically directed towards blockchain. So for example, ones that are live at the moment are BlockIS, and Intel IoT, or Blockstart. But with some of these projects, the difference is you don't see any big amounts of funding that they give. So in some of these projects, there's no money. But you were here for the technology, right? So there's a lot of additional things that they help with: mentorship, getting access to the technologies, getting access to whatever. They help you a lot to improve the technology, and these projects bring value if you're really serious about doing a blockchain project and you want to start. But if you survive this slide, then there are a few projects that are financed by European Commission that actually gives money to. So the NGI programs, they give 175,000 euros, 145,000 euros, 150,000 euros to do a blockchain project. So great opportunities done by the government and managed by others. So the bureaucracy here in these projects is so simplified compared to what you would have to do if you would go as a partnership and do a consortium and do a proper blockchain project, a huge blockchain project. So sometimes it makes sense to just apply to this and work it this way. Another way, I've heard a lot about the government and how maybe they don't do enough and so forth. I wanted to show you a slide about how government actually puts money into blockchain ecosystem in an incognito mode. So that's a screenshot from one publication where an EU-backed investment fund actually puts 30 million into a crypto VC firm. So that's how government money actually enters into blockchain space without us even knowing it. So that's a very interesting vehicle for, let's say, for a government money to reach blockchain. So the basic outcome is this: the mix of the money that is coming into the blockchain industry right now is varied, and you don't really know when you apply to a startup accelerator whether it's really a private money or public money. If you get a VC money, you don't know whether it's private money anymore or government money as well. So be open-minded. Try to create a strategy at different levels of your company, what funding is best for you, and grow from there. The opportunities are abound. You just need to target the right opportunity at the right time, and you'll get there. So thank you very much. And if any questions, we'll discuss that in the panel.
The last presentation in this panel, the Tt Invest Launchpad aims to convene and mobilizing key stakeholders from each governments, investors, industry, and startup associations, and innovative deep tech companies focused on development and application of artificial intelligence, innovative AI and blockchain companies, and projects with a broader investment community, including financial intermediaries. With us is Paul Stefanut from DT to Invest and Iceberg Plus. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Urska. Thank you for the invitation today. As mentioned, the DT2 Invest Launchpad is a contract with the European Commission, a tender that is coordinated by Baden-Württemberg Connected, a cluster in Germany, in partnership with several European organizations, France Digital, Mind the Bridge, and Iceberg Plus that I represent today. DT2 Invest basically was launched in correlation with a larger program of the European Commission, the establishment of a dedicated investment fund created with the support of the EIF, who invested 100 million euros. This was announced at the end of last year in December. And they managed to, at the time, to secure deals with 6 other large investment funds across Europe, each of them investing an additional 100 million euros. So this makes an overall pool of 700 million euros available for artificial intelligence and blockchain startups and scale-ups across Europe. Now, negotiations are in progress to triple or quadruple these amounts. Basically, this will create additional opportunities, not only dedicated to artificial intelligence and blockchain, but open more, let's say, in the future to deep tech in general. The Commission would like, according to the latest information that we have had, open the new fund to the broader spectrum of deep tech. Now, our support is to, our program has the mission to support the European Commission in conjunction with the activities that they have led for the creation of this large artificial intelligence and blockchain investment fund. And we have 4 main categories of activities that are being done in the scope of DT2 Invest. The project is almost at its end. So the first one is to build awareness across the communities of artificial intelligence and blockchain. We have organized several events, a large kickoff that was organized by France Digital, and there will be a closing event soon. And then in between, we have tried to engage with the communities across Europe through dedicated workshops, but also through bilateral discussions. The idea being to invite speakers, in particular representative stakeholders, startups, ecosystem stakeholders, but also investors and public authorities representatives, and then to discuss about the challenges, the opportunities brought by each technology, and try to define together action plans and roadmaps. The second activity that we have led is an in-depth mapping of what happens at the European level. So we have analyzed in 20 states the conditions following the involvement of the member states in the pan-European cross-cooperation programs on artificial intelligence and blockchain. And then we have gone in depth, let's say, about the existing measure, in particular financial measures that are available in each ecosystem, the way in which the public authorities cooperate with the private investment ecosystem to create additional leverage for the startups, and what is on the overall the business support ecosystem available and the services available for the startups in the field. One of the ongoing tasks currently is the establishment of a large MOOC with high-level personalities from the economic, political, and the financial arena. This is a work in progress, and it will be published soon towards the end of the year. So we cover 5 main topics, and each of them is represented by experts, high-level experts in the Last but not least, we have the mission to establish a portfolio, a large portfolio of European scale-up and startup in the field of artificial intelligence and blockchain. We have now included more than 2,000 startups and scale-ups, and this has the mission on the one hand to allow the European Commission to select the most promising ones, and to introduce them to the investment funds that they are working with. And on the other hand, to allow the consortium to also matchmake the community of investors with the startups that, in particular, the ones who participated to the events and the ones who are seeking for funding more generally. To reach all these stakeholders, basically, we have established partnerships with two types of stakeholders. First of all, with ecosystem partners. We have similar missions in nature, and the idea is basically to work together to enhance cooperation and then to find better ways of supporting the blockchain and artificial intelligence startups. This is also a possibility that is still ongoing and open, so we are still establishing new cooperation. And the second one that is in particular important and beneficial for the startups is creating a community of VCs that have an interest in artificial intelligence and blockchain. The idea being on the one side to allow them to introduce the companies from their network, let's say, who are seeking for follow-on rounds, but also to have access to a portfolio of companies who are looking for funding on a case-by-case basis. So this is basically what we have done. We have connected one by one some of the startups from the community that have approached us with typical VCs that are interested in their profile, and according to the different criteria that they use in their due diligence process, the geographical criteria, the growth stage of the companies, the markets, and so on. Now, with respect to the needs of the blockchain ecosystem stakeholders, our approach consisted basically, as I said, in analyzing in depth the conditions in 20 countries across Europe. You will find reports on the Tt Invest website that present in depth the conditions across several analysis axes. One of them is private and public investments, the situations in terms of local VC funds, but also in terms of access to funding, including the, let's say, European projects that Christian and Egidius mentioned earlier. And then out of that, we have selected 10 advanced ecosystems on which we are doing a SWOT analysis that has the mission to highlight the main gaps, challenges, best practices, and lessons learned at the level of the European Union. In parallel, we have organized more than 10 market consultations, workshops, once again, that typically covered on the one side, the access to private funding and the access to public funding. We had representative speakers, so from the local governments, from the local VC ecosystems, but also startups that have either raised funds, accessed public funding, or were in the process of doing so. In parallel, we have also interviewed 14 VCs and more than 80 startups, out of which 40 in the field of blockchain. And we have also collected in-depth information through an online survey from the startups within the community and beyond. So based on that, we have tried to compile the most representative challenges, but also opportunities, best practices, lessons learned, and recommendations for the European Commission. In regards to the blockchain, some of the main challenges today are first related to the perception that exists on the side of the clients and also of the investors. A lot of them are still confusing blockchain, sectorial applications of blockchain and fintech and cryptos, which makes the community pretty much reluctant to engage with the startups in the field. Furthermore, the numerous scams, failures, and as well the speculative nature of the blockchain in some cases creates a negative image, and the corporates in particular and the investors are really trying not to be associated with such projects. So this has, let's say, shaped a lot the communication of the blockchain startups that we have been working with, and they focus more on in their marketing approach on the added value that is brought by the technology. Also, the education level at the, let's say, applicative area side, also the investors in some cases, and more generally the wide public, is not that advanced, let's say, in terms of blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and big efforts have to be done to raise awareness about the potential that is offered, in particular for transparency in public applications and other industrial cases that might bring an additional value for the users. Then, in terms of applications, so blockchain has been for quite a while a buzzword, and this is what also in some cases makes the potential adopters reluctant. Numerous startups have to say that the projects need to be analyzed on a case-by-case situation and make sure that blockchain brings an additional value and impacts. A lot of proof of concepts, demonstrators have been implemented, but a large share of them do not make it to the next level. One of the best cases was the Netherlands. We engaged quite some time ago, starting from 2016, in a lot of public supported projects around blockchain. But basically, the results are no longer feasible today from what we have been able to see, and we do not know if what were the impacts of those projects and how many of them continue. The crypto and fintech projects are still dominant, and basically, I would say that in the portfolios of the largest share of VCs, the part of blockchain startups is unfortunately still marginal. One of the, let's say, reasons being that they consider that the market and the technologies are not mature enough, and the companies that approach them do not have a clear business case and enough traction to invest in them. All the stakeholders basically mentioned that the big challenges in terms of regulatory framework, which is not at all homogeneous at the European level. So some of the recommendations that were made, for example, were to adopt some regulations to certify the accuracy of information that has been digitalized by the stakeholders, and that will be introduced in the blockchain, in particular in the case of public administration. There is a lack of supporting legislation and advantages for the administrations and incentives as well for the administrations who would like to migrate their solutions and business processes towards blockchain. A lot of this, for example, is not at all supported by the law. One of the examples was a process to facilitate the custom control of goods, where let's say the advantages are straightforward and substantial, but the custom personnel is still forced to check the paper. So even if a company brings an impactful solution, there is no way of making it to the market. There are currently few blockchain in the crypto ecosystems favorable in Europe. Switzerland has been mentioned, is one of them, Malta, and so on. And basically, the legal costs to have a transparent and compliant blockchain situation are huge. One of the companies that we have discussed with mentioned costs of several hundred thousands of euros in Switzerland. And yeah, this is prohibitive for a lot of companies. There are also some good practices, for example, the sandbox that has been established by the Bank of Lithuania, but unfortunately for the moment, it seems that the impact is still limited. So this is something maybe to follow, because with the commitment of the bank and the authorities, important impacts could be achieved to scale up relevant projects in the field of fintech. In terms of the access to funding, basically the traditional VC models are unfit for blockchain, the equity, and as mentioned, they are rather reluctant in engaging with such companies due to the immaturity of the market, of the technology, the unclear business models, and the lack of expertise of their internal teams, let's say. A lot of the companies that we have discussed with also mentioned having challenges even with opening a bank account. So a lot of them had to move and relocate to some of the favorable ecosystems. And one of the questions they are asking is that basically the compliance is very heavy on the banks in terms of accepting the let's say the blockchain startups as one of as they might also represent a threat basically with respect to their traditional model. Major challenges have been met by the startups who raised money through the ICOs. Egidius mentioned Cardano earlier, saying that the bank is in the account. Well, basically they raise the money, but it's not necessarily in the account. So the liquidity is one of the major problems. The depreciation is another problem. The valuation of some of the companies who raise money in, let's say, in 2017 or 18 is important. This is something that some of the VCs mentioned, for example, and they even have challenges with the fiscal framework, the companies who raise through ICOs, and a lot of paperwork and, let's say, issues. The segment of NFT is currently raising, but for the moment, let's say the available information and feedback is insufficient to be able to draw significant conclusions on the topic. In terms of public funding, across the member states, we have rarely found dedicated measures to support blockchain. They are more covered through the perspective of broader instruments. And a lot of companies were reluctant to the public funding. On the one side, because it involves important investments of their time in particular. It's very competitive. It takes a long time. And in many cases, the projects change in the framework of, let's say, acceptance of and validation of the projects, which may take up to 6 months or even more, and throughout the implementation. And these administrative frameworks have been reported as being quite rigid. And basically, a lot of startups consider that they are defocused when they apply for public funding, unless there are very specific reasons, let's say, for going for such type of funding. Finally, this has been mentioned previously also, there are still some limitations of the technology itself in terms of the capacity to scale up for some mainstream businesses. But a lot of startups have also mentioned being threatened by larger companies and lacking the access to talents and not being competitive in front of larger companies who offer considerable advantages to the top talents in the area. That would be all. So thank you so much for your attention, and I think that we will discuss more during the panel.
Thank you very much. Please stay online because now is the time for the panel. I would also like to invite Marcin Reżicki from the Polish Blockchain Coalition to join us here on the stage live, and Nina Dukuzo from the Ministry of Economics and Technology Development from the Republic of Slovenia. Please just join us. And I would like also to introduce the moderator of this panel. This is Urszka Starcz-Pieczeny from Arctur and Tourism for Zero. And of course, Christian Zemlic from Global Disruption, Egidius Jarounasas from F6S, and Paul Stefanut from Tt Invest will join us.
So we will try to make this hybrid panel as much interested as possible and avoid all the technical problems. It's a great pleasure for me to be together with you. I was a little bit surprised when Tanya approached me, talking about this panel for the moderation of this panel, because I said, I mean, I'm not into blockchain, as Tommy Ilias already explained, like at the panel before, that we are like the beginners within this area, but still talking about foundings, there are so many learnings that we can, take from other sectors. And this is the idea actually now in this hour with these experts. We have heard so many interesting information. I have to say, I'm surprised how many possibilities are out there. And now during this discussion, I suggest that we just go deeper into some aspects of this topic. And as I already invited also online in chat, please feel free to share your question, your concerns. So we will try to include it into the debate. I think for the beginning, maybe a little bit provocative question would be, we heard already that blockchain is a kind of buzzword. What would you say? You have the insight into the ideas, projects, and all the applications coming in. What would you say? What is the percentage of projects who really have, blockchain insight and try to do something, and those using it just, for getting some, points on it and not really giving added value with it? What would you say? What is right now the situation in the market? Maybe Nena, you are the lady with us, to start with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It depends on which base you're calculating percentage, but according to our experience, for example, what we are financing and what we are supporting, it is around 60–65% of the companies or the projects using blockchain. It is a little bit different situation from the 2017, when we know that we had a hype, but it was mostly for ICO launched projects. But even then, we were on the top world country according to the amount of or invested amount in the Slovenian blockchain projects. We had 5% of all global investment into Slovenian blockchain projects. And from that on, it fell in 2018 to 19. But what we are very happy that the projects that were well conceptualized and that were well designed, they grew and they remain strong, and they are growing and also having value added what we were expected to have from these projects. Now we are all also here and realizing very good results, very concrete results, and very good application of blockchain technology in traditional concepts, in traditional business models, and also within SMEs and startups. So I'm optimistic that the technology as such will develop through the infrastructure projects, through use case projects, and it will cover even more verticals or industrial branches than this is now the case. Maybe this for the introduction, and then.
Very optimistic view here. So, what do you, Egidius? What is your, or Egidius, I would say? What is your opinion, like your insight?
I probably I'm not the best guy to put the insight on the hype of the blockchain technology. I think it survives the same cycles as with any other emergent technology that's coming to the market, where there are moments that's very hyped and people are talking about it and startups want to be like that. But then the other moment it just goes and becomes a regular technology, and same will probably be with the blockchain for as long as the environment, as with any other tech, with no bonus points being given for the specificity of the blockchain itself. For example, imagine how many there were wannabes. Amazon, yeah, I'm an Amazon of Slovenia, or Amazon of Lithuania, or Amazon of whatever, right? and the harsh environment of doing a startup company and getting financed kind of kill those companies. So the same thing with the blockchain companies, all of these guys that are coming to the industry without actual knowledge of what the blockchain is, how it works, how it's being developed, and just kind of puts whatever solution they're doing with the nice wrapping of blockchain, the harsh environment will basically kill it sooner or later.
Okay, I maybe add one more question, like when we are now making the rounds to it. So what do you think with blockchain as such would be now important, like in raising awareness, being accepted, is something that, as you say, it's the same circle that is doing each technology, but what at this point of development of this circle, what would be important, to make it faster, better, more efficient?
Yeah, I guess in no way, first of all, what shouldn't we do? And I think we shouldn't actually actively promote the blockchain as a technology within the general population, because it just creates the hype of the cryptocurrency, and as being mentioned, it just distorts the whole view of the technology. It's only my perspective, but the way I see, and it was raised as well in the panel before, the blockchain will probably be the technology that will be powering a lot of our day-to-day interactions, but people will not be thinking about it per se. It will be as with the internet, no one is thinking about the underwater cables that connects the internet, and no one is thinking about the 5G. Well, they think about 5G, but until 6G comes. So it will be same with the blockchain. I mean, developers and coders and tech people will be aware of it. They will build on it, but the general population will probably just use it without thinking what it is. So if we could differentiate it, that would be brilliant. That would be a good step already.
Perfect. Christian, you laughed. So what is your take on that?
I just love the answer. So it is really cool. So first of all, and this is also just my perspective, because some other experts, consultants, and so on have probably completely different experience, because we started to work on or with blockchain projects only in the last 2 years, maybe, with a bigger intensity in the last year. What I can say from this period is that we noticed, or at least I noticed, some kind of a trend. So at the beginning, entrepreneurs and founders who reached out, they usually they tried to squeeze in the blockchain because it was obvious, of course, from the perspective of EU calls, they could get some additional points. So they would mention blockchain as a feature, but any thorough reader or evaluator, and we should never underestimate those guys, they read and they understand immediately that it's like, it's not really needed as a solution. It doesn't add value. It's just a tactics how to get more points. Now, as EG already mentioned, not these approaches, at least in funding, in EU funding area, from my experience, were already killed. They stopped appearing, at least not, or they're not so present anymore. Also, us, we learned to distinguish a bit what is the real deal or not. So lately, we are working more with serious companies, blockchain companies who do have blockchain as a core technology powering their idea. The problem I noticed is that, and this is not inventing hot water, they are turning so fast that these procedures that take, and the time needed to develop a proposal, submit it, and wait for the evaluation takes a lot of time. So for them, it might be too late, especially for a very small, 5 to 20 team member size. They're really agile, they need to be fast. So for them, it's a bit too slow process, and the call might already be irrelevant for them. As far as the popularization or awareness raising, honestly, in my private life, and also people who I hang out, they mostly connect blockchain to cryptocurrencies, which I think is hurting the the reputation of the technology and the potential it bears. So I think that more concrete use cases would be something, you know, so for me as an expert, when someone comes and so they have an idea, they know what they have a blockchain and they can describe it in detail how it works, but they're still looking for the concrete implementation, how they could use it. So they're still trying to find their what's to say, their fit, you know, problem market fit. They are still weak here, and it's very hard to apply for them. Immediately when we will be able to say, okay, we can go this way or that way, we noticed already earlier in previous presentations that majority ends somewhere at the proof of concept, but then they have a big gap to next step. When this next step is somehow crossed, not just in fintech, for example, but also in other industries. I notice a lot in agri-food, for example. Then this will happen in time, yes, more popularization, but eventually blockchain as a powering technology, it will not be that important anymore. But that's my 2 cents on it.
Valdo, what do you think?
From what I have seen, basically, the share of blockchain-oriented projects in both public administration and private companies, and the collaboration with startups who provide such solutions are relatively marginal. Unfortunately, some of the companies, well, they've mentioned that there is a high interest in these blockchain solutions at the beginning. They play around with the technology. But when it comes to scaling up the solutions, then nobody wants to engage anymore. So they do not have the adequate funding, even if the results are very promising. Yeah, this is a roadblock for most of them. One of the challenges that they have regularly met. The companies who made it, in some exceptional cases, have gone international. So they are mostly on international markets in the US, or having, let's say, clients from the larger ecosystems. This would be mostly the situation that has been reported by the largest share of companies. A lot of them are quite still small and struggling in the environment. The pandemic created some opportunities for some of them in e-learning, for example. But in any case, the technologies that they use have to be studied case by case and see the real benefits that are brought to the clients. A lot we're using the buzzwords. We do blockchain and artificial intelligence and IoT, but at the end, when you look at the projects, they do not necessarily know what they're talking about. So,
okay, thank you, Marcin. So we are going back live to the venue. We can't hear you. Wait a second. Yeah, now.
Yes, okay, thank you. So at the beginning, I want to thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I'm very happy to be here today with you on site and remotely. Thank you very much. And briefly about me, because I couldn't say before. So my name is Marcin Szetecki, and I am a co-founder of the Polish Blockchain Association. And I have worked as a blockchain consultant since 2019. And the last but not the least, I'm co-founder of Polish startup Mysa, where is combining IoT blockchain in real estate industry. So this is about me. So regarding the question, I think from my perspective, technology is less important than underlying value proposition. That means we should focus not on the technology, but we should focus on the market opportunities. We should focus on the fit market product, well-designed market product fit or fitting business model. And I think when I'm working with the blockchain startups, I see that a lot of people think that they figure out the best solution and they figure out the best solution using blockchain. But if we go in depth in this use case, we saw that we can resolve the same problem using the traditional IT solution and what is cheaper and faster. So we should think about the blockchain not like a of course not like a technology, but we should what value they can bring to our business. So this is, from my point of view, very important.
Okay, so we are coming now actually to another point. Let's say we are the beginning. So we are talking startups, pitching, like not only startups, everyone. If we really start with this really beginning, when would you, what is your, I mean, your experts, from what point is an idea, you know, how would say, mature to pitch for not wasting time of, you know, the people that you are approaching? What would you say? What kind of questions should somebody answer before going out? Is there, you know, do you have some tips? What would you suggest? Maybe again to the venue, if you two, Nena and Marcin.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So I think the biggest problem is putting the technology in forefront, and because it's too high for everyone. And I think we should explain. Hello?
Yep.
Okay, we should explain our project in 2-3 sentences. We should explain why we use blockchain and how the blockchain resolves our problem in few sentences. Because when we're talking with owner of the startups, we ask them, what are you doing or why you use the blockchain? They have a problem to explain me. So if you're pitching the project and you have a problem to explain what are you doing, this is no good. So you should use in one sentence, I use blockchain because I don't know, I need trust, or I need immutable data, or I want to deliver trust between the user in the ecosystem. So the most important is shortly describe your idea and what you want to do. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, maybe if I just go continue your thoughts. It's always like this, you know, it depends in which environment you are describing the project and presenting it and so on. I think that first issue that we have, blockchain as technology is not very easy to explain. This is first. The second is what would be the motivation to use the technology as such? Because it's not very visible, and this is the problem of more or less all that technologies that are supporting, that are treated like tools, but are not very visible. So how to communicate this to emphasize the advantages of the technology? And the third thing is that when you describe the technology as such, you need to use very common wording or very common expressions so that you can enclose the terminology to the people, not only the technology to the people. And those are 3 challenges that I think that have to be overcome. And we are still not there. We cannot simply explain what blockchain is. We can say it's the database, it's peer-to-peer, it's network, it's something like this. But in relation to the project, we need to emphasize what are the advantages of this project if we want to apply it on blockchain technology.
Okay, very good point.
Once more, if you start talking about your project, as my project is based on the blockchain, using proof of work, etc., you're killing your project at the beginning. So this is very important to say something that other people can understand.
Okay. So what about the rest? Egidius, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so you got your brilliant blockchain idea that you want to develop. I mean, when you're at idea stage, don't pitch for money. Pitch for advice first. As with any other technology, as with any other company, money doesn't come at idea stage, usually. And that's why there are a bunch of different programs, both startup accelerators that are private and government programs that actually get you in the program to kind of boil down your idea to something more specific, at least a prototype or MVP. And at that stage, you can start pitching it to someone that will actually give you money, whether that will be a startup accelerator or that gives money for equity, whether it will be a government funded project or an angel money. Prototype probably is the earliest possible stage that you could at least expect money. And at that time, you will have a lot of these answers that kind of answered to yourself because you already worked on it. You know the technology, you know what breaks and what doesn't. So that would be the solution on my side.
Okay, Paul, what is your?
From my perspective, I think that these projects have to come first from a good understanding of the knowledge of the use cases and the industry that they are addressing. Basically, a lot of founders are in love with their technologies and they are working in a tech push mode and they do not know the market needs. In addition, a lot of them are afraid of someone else stealing their idea, so they do not pitch them enough to get the feedback that is needed in the process, and they come up with developing things that do not fit the market reality. So basically, the industry expertise, either from the inside in the ideal case, or also through external stakeholders, an advisory board, or going through acceleration programs, is fundamental to make sure that the technology brings value to specific use cases.
Christian, I left you for the end because I would also add the next step, talking about then EU foundings. Maybe just first shortly about a pitch, what do you think is the most important thing? And then I would like to proceed toward what is the case talking about EU foundings? Is the same or it's different when applying then for projects? So maybe if you can explain your opinion on that.
So if possible, I will do both questions at the same time.
Perfect.
First of all, because in general or in my daily work, we don't work with very early, super early stage companies on the idea stage. We mostly talk to companies that are, we call it at the prototype level. So they have something, they know which way they could go, and they ask money, anything between 1 million and 17 millions to further develop it, test it, validate, and then commercialize it, okay? So that very initial things, honestly, I don't deal with them. So, but it is important for me when they approach us and say, look, we need funding for this. And we spent most of time in this EIC accelerator, which is on the one side grant, was a form, and then pitching to the pitching jury, which is composed of investors and corporates. And I think you know that actually, since you're applying on the same call. But what I really ask is, it's a bit opposite than the others. I always ask what problem they solve, because if you remember my presentation earlier, I said we need to align the objectives of the Commission and the objectives of the company. And if they are addressing a problem which I cannot connect to EU somehow, I already have a problem, and they have it as well. So I am interested very much in the problem, very simple thing. For example, because it can be done in 2-3 sentences. Let's say that company comes and says, that we cut this and that much, this many trees to produce paper products, but we have a solution that can use fallen leaves instead of paper. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. That's a good problem. That's something to solve. Now, if they add on that, and we have a solution to that, which includes also blockchain, I'm all ears. I really want to know. I don't want to know that much about the technology, how it really works and all the components inside and algorithms and so on. It's important, but not at this stage. I mostly want to see where is the added value of this approach and understand how it is unique, because if it's unique, we are really catching the attention first of the evaluators and later on of the pitching jury. And so this is the two main things. And maybe the final one, because it's really cool if the idea is innovative, different, it stands out. But of course, like I said, I always defend the position that don't apply unless you can build business around it. So I want to understand if there is some customer need for that, if they can prove it somehow. You know, there are many ways to do it, but somehow. And, you know, then we usually do a mindset test saying like, okay, guys, imagine you got the money, forget about it. You developed your innovation to the end, and now you're present worldwide. What has changed? Are the end users acting differently? Are the industry players acting differently? Because if we can somehow envision there is a change, so let's say impact, as Brussels likes to call it, then we have a solid case. Then we know we can proceed in general and do some magic around it. And if we cannot find the answer yet, then of course we spend some time in understanding if there is some such potential disruption, and if not, if it's very focused, narrowed, limited to a very specific niche, then unfortunately I don't believe there is much chances to get funding, at least in the EU area. But it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because there are also better opportunities than EU funding, for example. So that's my take on it.
As you see, it really depends on the situation and where somebody is acting. Maybe I would come back to this issue, because we see also in the chat mentioning is about this image, or let's discuss together what can be done for a blockchain that's not, you know, this everyone connects. It's like it's a crypto related project, you know, these negative sides of this technology. What can be done? Who, you know, because the startups can't do much about it. It's more on, I don't know, system level. What would you suggest? What would be the best thing? Who should do something? Nena, what do you think? How can we help this, you know, this area to brighten the image and so?
I will tell you one thing first. In 2017, I mentioned it before, we were on the top of investment into ICOs. And what was very positive for me, because till then we used to finance startups and SMEs mostly through institutional money, from the European Union, cohesion policy, regional development fund, and so on. And what was very positive for me under the analysis that was done by Zemanta in 2018, that in 2017 there was around only 51% of institutional investments into the startups in the field of technology, and 49 in private investments. And it was an optimistic sign that we can attract either private or institutional money. What happened next when Europe and member states also found out that this is the focus of the investment for digital transformation? There were developed certain investment programs. And what we are having now, we have now actually the programs for classical digital transformation, where we motivating traditional companies to go to the consortiums with startups And this is the way how, through the digital transformation of traditional companies, also the startups can become financed. This is first. The second is that, for example, we have dedicated programs, for example, at EU level or EIB, EIF, supporting equity with equity capital for startups in blockchain and AI technology. We have Central Europe programs like Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe, or Digital Europe program, which is also dedicated to finance AI, blockchain, and other advanced technology programs. So there are different ways of financing, but what is missing here is maybe that part, because we know that venture capital is developed in different stages across the European countries, maybe less in the last group of the countries that access to the European Union in 2004, and maybe more in Western European countries. What is now the task to do is more or boost the private venture capital investors into blockchain and AI companies. And we need to find the way how to put together private investors and also that advanced blockchain and AI projects, taking into account their impact also on the development of technology as well as on the project themselves.
Thank you. Marcin?
I want to add that in Poland, we have the very similar programs like Nena said, but we have also the first Polish bank has an incubator when you can join and you can find the founding of your project. So we see that not only the private investors are interested in the blockchain project or related with IoT AI, but we see that the public institutional banks are interested in this technology. So this is something new in Poland, I think in the Europe as well.
Okay. Thank you. Paul?
Yes, thanks. So on my side, I think that there are three levels of engagement. The first and the most important one comes from bottom up. The founders have to be committed and push as much as possible, find the resources, be resourceful, let's say, and then the rest will probably come. Some of the investors, for example, mentioned that they work with projects facing huge challenges, and because the team, the founders were very stubborn, they managed to make it at the end, despite the ecosystem conditions. Then at the second level, we would have the institutions at the national and the European level. And you have seen that there are a lot of efforts in this area, in particular at the European level. At the national level, this has to be strengthened further, in particular, as we have seen, not too many member states have defined the national blockchain strategy. This is rather marginal, limited. It's much more advanced in the field of artificial intelligence. And also the amount of investment earmarked for blockchain applications could be increased. Today, it's practically inexistent. There are some success stories in Greece. For example, there is a national program dedicated to research, innovation, creation of startups. And there are more than 40 blockchain projects or projects that mention blockchain, because we didn't go in depth to analyze them one by one, but they mention in the description blockchain. So this is rather an exception within the European ecosystem. And then the third level of support may come from intermediaries such as ourselves. So organizations who commit to supporting the blockchain ecosystem, the startups, incubators, accelerators, programs that are funded by the European Commission, such as the ones in which F6S is involved, the one that we are leading ourselves. And then either, let's say, programs that are driven by the national institutions, once again, technology parks and things like that, or by private organizations, so corporate accelerators in particular.
Christian?
So I fully agree that such awareness raising campaign cannot be done by a single, with a single layer, let's say only startups or only institutions. So it should be multi-layer. What I think is also that the message needs to change. So first of all, majority of ordinary citizens do not really understand the blockchain. So I think it would be much appreciated if we could learn more about use cases. So at the moment, even the owners and successful entrepreneurs, they mostly say, we raised that, we raised this, we made ICO, etc. So, but it doesn't tell you anything except they made it, but what they exactly made, who knows what they did. So I think there should be more focus later in the stages, at least, from these companies as well, to promote the use of their technology, the value they added, created for their customers and users and so on. Of course, it's a bit different. It's content marketing, but I think it's really missing. The other thing is that we have around 300 Horizon 2020 projects funded. I did a short research as we speak. 70 of those, which are really huge projects, like with over 100 participants and billions and millions of grants who are doing some crazy stuff. There are projects, these are like 70 of them are close to the market. So I assumed, there should be some kind of initiative who could push their dissemination efforts further. So maybe change the language from dissemination to more concrete marketing and so on, because there are some real life activities going on, creating value as we speak, but we don't know. So these projects, they submit some reports. Nobody knows about them really, except if you're really looking for them. And we are left with mostly with, we raise this or that. And so as to sum up, multi-layer approach and more focus to content, let's say content marketing. So the value for in real life, that would make it more popular.
Okay, thank you. Egidius, what do you suggest?
Well, if just thinking about how to present the blockchain in a positive light versus the negative light, I think first of all, if you're talking to someone about your technology and they have bad affiliations, bad feeling about it, then probably you shouldn't talk with this guy. You're in the wrong room. People that understand the technology, they will be open to the discussion and have an objective discussion with you. Now, thinking about the negative side of this, and as in the comments as well, I see people associated with the crypto and so forth. This happens in any industry, right? If you are evading taxes, regardless of the industry, you will be seen in a negative light. The very same way, if you buy something on the internet shop and it's not being delivered to you, you will be seen in a negative light. So this happened for the blockchain as well. And I guess the world didn't see a Wild West for a long time already. And it was some part of the Wild West some time ago. And many people jumped into the train, and obviously a lot of things happened, right? So, but I guess the ones that are open-minded, focused on the technology, looking forward, they don't care about the negativity of it. They actually look about the perspective and the size. And the ones that catch that wind, they ride on the wind, and you don't need to explain the benefits of the technology to them anymore. So just find the right people to talk, and you should do fine.
Okay. And we still have time for one more aspect. Actually, it came out now during the discussion. It's this, okay, we have private fundings, we have EU fundings. What about this possibility of merging of startups with already established companies, a butterfly and an elephant, this, I know from, I'm living in Vienna, and I know here there are like big, like, attempts, or are still doing it, trying at the beginning was like very romantic. Yes, of course, startups bringing new energy and big companies, and everything will be perfect. But then during the process, one could learn that it is not so easy. Do you have experience with that? How do you see this? Like merging or trying for startups to apply, to approach bigger, what should startups think by it, or also actually established companies thinking about doing that? Should we start at go.
So at F Success, we actually see a big emergence of corporate innovation programs that are looking for startups in blockchain areas, for example, as well, to kind of drive the technology and innovation into the corporate world, where the processes are moving just so slower, right? And everything costs so much more. So it sounds like a good way of bringing the technology. Now, it's a rare scenario where a startup can approach a corporate, a big player themselves alone. But I think this problem has been solved already, and there's a lot of programs that are actually getting corporates onboarded and just run it, like digest everything, so that a startup enters into the relationship with the big corporate in a managed relationship handed by someone. I know Techstars, one of the world's most popular startup accelerators, are partnering with big corporates to do such thing throughout their program, and at the end, companies can get paid pilots with the corporate and so whatsoever. But there's a bunch of these programs happening now, but someone needs to kind of hold a hand throughout
moderate
this process.
The process. And okay, Christian, what do you think?
I agree here. So direct approach usually doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work. But what I learned from some of really successful companies who are maybe not really startups, but still small teams, young teams, like let's say 5-6 years old and 10-20 team members, they use EU projects, because I can mostly talk from this perspective, as a door opener. So they always list a bunch of projects. Let's say 5 they want to apply, 5 they want to join, and 5 if they would be part of those would be awesome. And instead of knocking on the door and asking if they could do something for them, they usually approach with some idea and say, this is what we have, we want you on board, would you be interested? Now in there, and they try to come somehow in touch with maybe future customers, clients, big companies who would never listen to them because they only see them like someone who wants to take something from them. But now they offer them something. Now for the very early stage, I also think it's not that feasible. So you have to have something, in order that someone is even willing to listen to you. But again, there are programs like, I will mention this one again, EIC Accelerator, when even if you don't make it all the way to the grant, so it's a single stage proposal, the commission organizes different events, pitching events, where they push you further if your idea is solid, and you have this opportunity to mix and talk and present the idea. I think it's a way to go. It doesn't cost anything, so it's a good start. But I can only say it's not an easy way. Yeah, that's
okay. Paul?
I have to admit that from my perspective, I'm a little bit skeptic about these collaborations because they are usually very slow. They do not finalize with big deals for the startups. It's rather a go-to-marketing than a go-to-market approach. It definitely helps the visibility of the corporate, of the startups that can say that they work with large companies, but it's not necessarily translated in business. And in some cases, some of the startups also mentioned that large companies have created their own spin-offs. They call them startups, but they hand them on the plate all the ingredients, the funding, the market, and this is basically not such a loyal competition with the traditional startups. So this would be the perspective. The process takes a lot of time. It needs trust that is built over time, and the decision-making process is not always positive for the startups. So they have to find alternative ways of developing.
Okay, thank you. Nena, Marcin, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, okay. So I think we have a different founding. That means we can European Union, we can VC and the others. So I think what I said before, that the biggest problem is putting the technology at the forefront. On the front, because everyone as a co-owner of the founder of the project thinking that the technology is the best, and we have to describe, we have to show, but for the venture capital VC or the European is not so important. Of course it's important, but not at this stage. And I think the biggest mistakes is something like VCs is focused on the KPI. So the most important is showing is marketing, is showing the how many users you have, how it looks like your how many transactions you have. So I think this is what we do with my clients when I validating the blockchain project at the end of the phase. So I think, of course, communication, emails, etc. But the most important is deliver KPI for the VC.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I actually see three ways how to motivate that large companies or conventional ones to finance or to partner with startups and to let them in. The first thing is that okay, the motivation could be through the focused call for projects where companies need to cooperate with startups, with SMEs, and with the transfer of innovation to that traditional companies. The second one is that we need a kind of supporting environment, maybe not very classical ones as we knew until now, to motivate large companies to search for startups that would fit into their digital transformation. And the third thing is that we also have some cases in Slovenia that larger companies create their own venture capital funding. And they can finance startups also maybe through their own funding or via some instrument that is developed in the national level or on the European level. And those are three main steps or three main opportunities. The fourth, which I heard 2 days ago, is that large companies are starting to develop their own blockchain or digital or advanced digital departments within the companies. So maybe with through this entrepreneurship and then from this point of view, we can have another group of startups that would be spin-offs from larger companies. And this is also the way how larger companies can finance startups in and also get new ideas and new innovations into their processes.
Okay, so thank you very much. I was thinking now what to ask for the last round. We still have time for one round, and I would like to make it a little bit visionary. You are experts, and all startups, also companies need, you know, some path in which direction to go. So what do you think in 5 years from now, blockchain sector, how do you see it? Nena, maybe you, again, as a lady, to start with the closing round.
Yeah, if we are smart and transformative, then we will boost the use of blockchain and also other technologies. But what I think from 5 years from now, the convergency element will be a very prevailing element in the whole structure of digital technologies. So combining different technologies for specific solution, for innovative solution, for something to be sustainable on the long term, also putting the human beings in the center of those technologies, this would be the maybe the vision for 5 years. Then we will have new future of work, new types of work. Maybe we will not notice which technology is behind, but we will know that with this different quality of work, we can achieve even more sustainable and more resilient world, if you want to use now this terminology, which is very popular. Thank you.
Very, very nice. Thank you. Marcin?
Okay, so for me, I have been fascinated blockchain since 2017, and the blockchain for me it's evolution. And I believe in this technology. I believe that it can be changed the world. But if we add IoT and AI technology, and for me, these technologies are a revolution. That means they change our life and then change our environment, so everything. So I'm in this industry for many years, and I see how the life is changed. So I believe that this technology help us and will be good for us, not bad for us. That means, you know, yeah, so for me, the blockchain is the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes, I think that first of all, there are some challenges to be solved in terms of technology maturity and performance. And we have to see if Europe wants to be positioned as a leader in the area or if it wants to follow the developments made on other continents where the investments are much higher in the field of blockchain and not only. Yeah. Based on this, I think that once again, the companies have to make sure that they leverage the emerging waves. Currently, as Marcin said, there is a convergence of technologies bringing value to the society. So seeking these synergies, enhancing more cooperation is a fundamental key success factor from my perspective. And finally, I think that the incentives will also play a very important role, and this is the role of the public institutions for adopting, promoting, and financially supporting blockchain if we want to be ahead of the game, let's say.
Okay, thank you. Egidius?
So I guess looking at the history kind of shows us where we are heading to, and the very beginning of the blockchain was just developing technology for the sake of actually proving that it works and does something. Now we see some companies trialing their technology in the real world scenarios. I think in 5 years we'll see the first blockchain projects actually implementing large scale solutions that are not on the let's say trial label, under trial label, but actually real world case scenario. It would be good to see in 5 years something that the government start implementing and running themselves. That's blockchain based, but we'll see that. On the fun note, I think in a few years we've seen CryptoKitties being a place for people to throw money at. Right now we have the NFTs, and in 5 years we'll see something new and fun where people will throw their money at. So fun times ahead.
Great. Christian?
So in my opinion, if in 5 years, let's say, if companies will step over this gap and move from proof of concept to real life cases with some value, as already mentioned earlier, we will see the spread of blockchain technology. And I think that the biggest success will be that we will not talk about blockchain anymore. So blockchain developers will be, in my opinion, successful when no one will really talk about blockchain anymore, but really the positive impact it has on the society, whether this is a democracy, business, nature, or something else. From the entrepreneurial perspective, I think it's going to be a fast-growing market because there will be a demand as soon as we can make this click that this is not technology, but the value, with the value behind. When we make this transition, we should be fine.
Perfect. So with these words, actually, I would close this panel. As we could see, there are many possibilities, many scenarios. It always depends on each idea, stage of the idea, the environment. So everyone needs to find the best information and fit for own wills or whatever he needs. But at the end, like the goal, I think, and the responsibility of all of us, from startups to governments and big corporations, is in using this technology and developing toward a future where we use it for the good. So I hope with this message, we have inspired you enough to use technology in great projects and pitch them to the experts and EU calls that will be open. Tanya, I would give the word back to you, if you agree.
Thank you very much, Urška. Thank you very much, all of you that were the part of this roundtable. Very valuable insight, and the thing is that we are very aligned. We had a similar question: what is the future of blockchain technology in the roundtable with the industry representatives? And we must say we are very aligned. The future for blockchain technology is certainly bright.